On October 11th, walk to save a life in memory of Ashby Ward. We'll show you how you can help. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the House of Blues, the location for the annual kickoff of the 12th Annual American Heart Walk in memory of Ashby Ward. And we're visiting with Brad Dean, the Chief Financial Officer for the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce and the co-chair for this year's annual Heart Walk. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning. Great to see you, Greg.
Thanks so much for being with us this morning. Incredible to think of the luncheon last Wednesday and an amazing turnout in the Indigo Room. I think it was such a large turnout they had to move it from the restaurant upstairs to the Indigo Room.
Yeah, they packed a private room at the House of Blues, which is not easy to do. It's a great venue, and we had a great meeting of a lot of people, public officials, media, as well as just regular citizens like you and I trying to get involved in the American Heart Association in this year's Heart Walk.
Absolutely, and the big push right now is teams. Teams are a really big deal. Of course, you've got some amazing sponsors on board. It's amazing to think about the commitment that so many sponsors have made to this year's Heart Walk. But teams are a really big deal.
Well, it is. You know, everybody thinks about the sponsorships, and that is a significant portion. Of course, I think you're meeting with Susan Cohen later this week, and Susan Cohen and Doug Wendell, Bros and Chapin, agreed to help recruit sponsors, and they've done a great job. But most of the money comes from people like me and you, whether it's individual walkers or teams. So that's really the big challenge right now. We've got to recruit more teams to hit this year's goal.
Definitely, Brad. So excited to have you and Graham Edwards. Graham's coming in tomorrow with Marilyn Tuning from the Chamber to talk about both the walk as well as Santee Cooper and their role in the walk. What about yourself, Brad? Are you originally from the area?
Not originally. I grew up in the Midwest and traveled around a little bit, lived a little overseas in the Northeast and Florida before I came here.
Is that right? What had you been doing prior to your move to the area?
Well, I had worked for a small little restaurant chain. You may have heard of them, the Hard Rock Cafe. And we, of course, opened one here in 1995, and I came here to open that. And it was an exciting time for the Myrtle Beach area as well as the company. And I spent 3 years running that Hard Rock Cafe.
Amazing. What was that like, Brad? How exciting to leave Florida. You said to leave Florida and to come up to Myrtle Beach.
Well, quite frankly, I was living in Miami, and they couldn't have paid me enough to get out of Miami. I mean, I was ready to leave there and kind of come to a little smaller town, and really like the beach for that reason. It's just a great place to live, work, and play. And the Hard Rock was very successful here. The excitement, you know, around the pyramid and bringing that level of attraction to Myrtle Beach was just a neat experience. And of course, it paid off for the company. It's one of the most successful ever in the company's history.
Is that right? And the excitement, of course, to be behind the scenes. It's kind of like touring the House of Blues here, seeing so many of these hidden rooms, this amazing facility. In the same way, so many folks pass that pyramid right out there on the bypass at 29th at Broadway at the beach and wonder what's in there for many locals and others who may not have even been in there. But when you get in there, you've seen behind the scenes. What's that like?
Yeah, well, you know, the neat thing about a place like the House of Blues or the Hard Rock is whether you're 4 years old or 74 years old, there's something that you can relate to and enjoy. And so it was always neat to see some of the musicians and the memorabilia that was donated. Of course, there were some local musicians as well, and I think even the House of Blues has taken artwork from local artists. So it's always neat when you can combine that national flair with some local resonation. I think it's a great opportunity for the community and the business.
Absolutely. Brad, how did you come to your position in the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce?
Well, it's not a natural transition, obviously. I had, for 3 years, just enjoyed that, but I think I had become a good manager at the expense of being a pretty poor father and husband, and it was time for me to get my personal priorities in line. I had a youngster at home and needed to spend more time with him, so the Chamber was a great stepping stone. I had worked with Mr. Ward as a volunteer on the board of directors, and it was a great experience for me to get involved with the Chamber and learn from him. So the next logical step was to come on board with the Chamber and get involved sort of behind the scenes, but to learn from the master of tourism, and that was Ashby Ward.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about the position of Chief Financial Officer. What exactly, going from the General Manager of the Hard Rock to CFO, I think you'd had a training in finance or in money management.
Yeah, my background was finance administration, and this Chamber's unique in that it's one of the largest in the country. It is part privately funded and part publicly funded, so there's some key diagnostics that you've got to balance when you're dealing with government funds, and it's a critical element in the promotion of tourism in this area. And of course, everybody in your viewing audience in one way, shape, or form is involved in tourism, whether through economic impact or their own jobs or maybe just being a tourist to the beach. So the organization itself plays a critical role, and so the finance person's responsibility is to make sure that we're in accordance with all government regulations, and more importantly, to make sure that monies are used not just legally but most effectively.
And it is so important. And I'm glad you mentioned Susan Cohen and Doug Wendell. Susan's coming in on Thursday, and I think she held a position of Vice President of Marketing at the Chamber for a while before going to Burrs and Chapin, and the excitement of thinking about that commitment to bring folks to the community, the 13+ million folks who come here on an annual basis. It's incredible to think we're in this location, much like in Orlando or Vegas, where folks travel from all over the world to be right here.
You know, we take for granted that people come here and spend their hard-earned money to play in our backyard. So it's a privilege in a lot of ways to serve people in that regard and to help bring them here. But, you know, it's never enough. When we had 10 million, people thought we needed 12. When we had 12, we needed 13. We got 13. They want us to get to 20. And I think that's one of the neat things about our area, whether it's a new theme park, a new mall, maybe an international trade center down the road. It's neat to live and work in a place that's constantly changing and has those opportunities. Sometimes problems, but those are good problems to deal with.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about theme parks, Brad. I'm glad you mentioned that. But, of course, our big focus is the Heart Walk, and it's in memory of an amazing man, and you mentioned his name, Ashby Ward. Can we talk, can you share with the viewers, let's say viewers in Laurinburg, tell them a little bit about Ashby Ward if they've never had a chance to meet him or didn't know anything about who he was.
Well, anything about Ashby Ward is he is a local South Carolinian. Of course, he grew up in Lake City. He was a television personality back in the days when the TV personalities did it all. He did newscast commercials. He even hosted the old children's show, Spaceship C9, and he would be on TV with the kids. I mean, he was just an icon in the TV industry. So when he came to the Chamber of Commerce, he had no experience in tourism promotion, but he did it well, and he single-handedly built a marketing program that helped propel this destination from a sleepy little resort to a booming tourism mecca. And it was through his influence and his leadership that nearly 30 years later, Myrtle Beach area is one of, if not the most popular vacation destinations for families on the eastern seaboard.
Truly. Truly, it's amazing when you sit here and think about that impact, and both in the southeast as well as to the state, just the impact it's had. It is amazing, and I know to think the Chamber has such a vital role there. How many folks from the Chamber you think will be out there walking with you on October 11th, Brad?
Well, I hope other than the two that are working that day, everybody will be there. The staff has rallied around this. It's been fun for them. We've, of course, had some events and fundraisers, but most importantly, we've got a close tie to the Ward family. So I'm hoping that not only I'll be out there with my family and my staff, but also Mrs. Ward and her family. It's a very important event for us. We want this not only to be a great heart walk, but a great heart walk in memory of a great man.
Brad, have you contacted folks from regional chambers of commerce or the National Chamber of Commerce to get down here on October 11th to be out here celebrating Ashby's life?
Absolutely. We've asked that every chamber participate. If they can't participate as an organization, just as individuals. The state chamber even indicated they wanted to be involved. And, you know, when people in Columbia want to come to the beach and get involved for something other than a vacation, it's got to be important. So we're hoping that that's just symbolic of what will happen throughout the business community. But, of course, as we talked about earlier, the real key is getting individuals, families, social groups involved to help reach this year's goal.
Brad, can you share with the viewers real quick exactly, or what it was about Ashby Ward that impressed you the most?
I think his leadership, his ability to work with all people at all levels was absolutely amazing. He was a remarkable man. He didn't care about individual achievements or accomplishments, but was very concerned about always doing what was right in the community. He was honest, he was candid, but he was willing to work, and he was a great listener, and always had a great ability to find the right solution at the right time in the right way, and to make it an effective solution not only for himself and his organization, but the community at large.
You talked about the amazing contribution of highlighting Myrtle and bringing so many folks to Myrtle. Would that be, if you were to describe the contributions that Ashby made to the community, would it be just bringing all the folks here, making that commitment to really get the name Myrtle Beach out there?
Well, he was Mr. Myrtle Beach, and so in a lot of ways that's what we think about, whether it was doing weather forecasts or tourism promotion, but there was so much more to him, Greg. For many, many years, he fought the battle to get us an interstate. We're the only major tourist destination that's grown up without an interstate, and an interstate not only brings more tourists here, it also brings economic diversity, and that's important to everybody in your listening audience. So Mr. Ward did a lot of things behind the scenes that most people will never know about, but he always did it because he felt it was the right thing, not only for the Myrtle Beach area, but for South Carolina. He always wanted it to work for his area, his city, his state, and he felt like if it serves South Carolina's interests, it must be the right thing to do.
Brad, the new visitor center out in Aner was named in his honor, obviously prior to his death. What was that day like for Ashby?
It was a remarkable day. Of course, he didn't know we were going to do that and had no part in the naming. He was embarrassed by it and thought we had done too much for him, but it was a great way to honor him, and glad we did so while he was still alive. It was a fun day. It was snowed. Of all times, it snowed in Myrtle Beach on the day we named it, but you know, it was interesting. I don't think a person turned around and went home. We still had over 100 people there to honor him that day. And of course, there was so much else going on in the community. That was the day the new Radisson opened. People still made their way out to Aner to be a part of that ceremony, and I think it meant a lot to him and his family, and it's a day that I'll never forget.
And it snowed that day.
Absolutely. You wouldn't think it snowed. Of course, he reminded us that was really just white sand, but it was memorable nonetheless. And, of course, that center today is welcoming hundreds of thousands of visitors, and it's people who are coming here to make memories in our community. And if we can help assist them and remind them of just what a special man he was, I think it's a great accomplishment and a great addition to our local area.
Brad, was getting an interstate to Myrtle Beach the highest priority on his list?
It was certainly very high, and he worked on that for so many years. And, of course, through his efforts, the Department of Transportation said that's their number one priority in the coming years. But there were other things, obviously, he worked on to help improve the quality of life in Horry County and surrounding counties. Education was important, and for many years he's been an ardent supporter of educational measures to help improve education in South Carolina. So I think there were other things, but certainly I-73 and tourism were two at the top.
Brad, we've got a couple of minutes. I want to ask, lastly, before we move on to the real focus of the Heart Walk, any particular memories of Ashby that you'd want to share with the viewers?
Well, you touched on the Welcome Center, and I'll never forget, at the time we began doing that, it was a big investment and a big step, and there were some people that felt like maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, and at the same time there were other organizations fighting over money, and of course, you know how it is, Greg, in tough times, there's a limited amount of money, everybody wants to nudge and fight for their piece of the pie, and I remember late one Friday night, I went in his office, and I said, Mr. Ward, numbers just aren't there, and maybe it's the right idea in the wrong time. And he kind of looked at me, and with that patented Ashby Ward grin, he sat back and he said, you know, it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. And sure enough, we proceeded in accordance with our board and local communities and ended up building one of the finest welcome centers in the southeastern United States. Today, it not only welcomes visitors, we've had other organizations come just to see how we did it. And I think I'll always remember that Mr. Ward always kept his eye on the prize. He had the long-term vision and knew what we had to do long-term as well as short-term. And I think that's great leadership, and that was Ashby Ward.
Leadership is about setting goals and working towards those goals. Absolutely. That's a great story, Brad. What are some of the things you've been called on to do as co-chair of this year's Heart Walk?
Well, working with Graham Edwards, you don't have to do a whole lot. Graham is a class act, and as you saw last Wednesday, he left a meeting with the governor to drive all the way to the Myrtle Beach area to meet with people who are going to be involved in the Heart Walk. So between Graham and I, we're trying to work with the Heart Walk and the Heart Association staff and the many volunteers we have to recruit walkers, first and foremost, to help recruit sponsors, and then also to make sure that the 11th is a great day. We're going to have Splish and Splash from the Pelicans, face painting for the kids, all kinds of activities, free food and drinks, and it's going to be a great event. We want to make sure that people come out and have a good time, and remember that it's an important cause in memory of a great man, but we're also out there to have a good time that morning.
Brad, what kind of response have you received from the community so far?
Well, so far businesses have lined up to be involved, and we're excited about that. Of course, we do need more walkers, and we're hoping now that the post-Labor Day rush, that was the reason why we held the lunch last week, to kind of give everybody a chance to catch their breath after Labor Day. We're hoping now that more people will get involved. Everybody who learns about it and hears what Mr. Ward's commitment to the community was, I think, wants to help out in some way. And there's so many ways for people to help out, and of course earn lots of neat prizes in the process.
Brad, I know you'll be speaking the day of the 11th. Obviously, that's a little more than a month from now. What will you tell the folks in the crowd before the walk kicks off or afterwards about Ashby and your personal involvement with this year's Heart Walk?
Well, I think Mr. Ward did so much. You don't have to talk long to talk about what he accomplished and to demonstrate what an important part of this community and the state he was. What I'm hoping, Greg, is that people that will be there on the 11th will realize that to reach our goal, it didn't take a lot. If every person in your viewing audience gave just $5, just the cost of one value meal at McDonald's, we would more than double last year's commitment to the Heart Association. So I'm hoping that on the 11th we'll be thanking them for honoring a great man and helping this become the best Heart Walk ever.
Absolutely. Brad, lastly, what message do you hope that your participation as co-chair of this year's walk will send to your friends and colleagues and your wife's colleagues and all your family?
You know, Greg, there's so many good causes in our community, and you as well, get involved in numerous ones. I can't think of one, though, that hits a larger audience. It's an equal opportunity disease. It kills regardless of race, creed, or color. It kills rich as well as poor, men as well as women, and right here in our viewing audience, it kills children as well as adults. So I'm hoping the message we send is this cause is every bit as important, and it's not going away. And without the involvement of people like the ones watching today, we may not make it go away, but we can help educate our children, help treat this disease, and help move ourselves beyond it so we can help others in need. I think that's the message we're sending, and I hope others get it.
Others will get it. They got a little more than a month to get it, but they got to get out there, put a team together. You heard Brad Dean say it, inspired by an amazing leader, Ashby Ward, his extended family throughout not only the greater Myrtle Beach area, but throughout the Southeast, and so many folks who've learned about Myrtle Beach and can learn about the Heart Walk because of folks like Brad Dean. Brad, thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to Susan Mungo coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome back to Carolina People. This morning we're at the House of Blues, the location for last Wednesday's kickoff luncheon for the 12th Annual American Heart Walk in memory of Ashby Ward. And we're visiting with Susan Mungo, a safety specialist at Santee Cooper. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning, Greg.
Thanks so much for being with us this morning and coming in right after Brad Dean.
Thank you for having me.
Superstar co-chair of the Heart Walk, along with, I guess, kind of the boss or the chairman of the board, Graham Edwards of Santee Cooper.
That's right.
He's in tomorrow, a real superstar. How long have you been with Santee Cooper, Susan?
A little over 14 years.
14 years?
Yes.
Golly. How long have you been a safety specialist there?
A little over 5.
Okay. Share with the viewers real quick exactly what it means to be a safety specialist.
Well, if you've ever heard of OSHA, that's something like what I do, but it's within the company. I go around and audit our crews and our buildings and all of our employees just to make sure that we're doing things according to guidelines and specifications and in a safe manner.
And are these national or regional or local specifications, or just specifications as to Santee Cooper, the entire electric industry?
We have federal regulations and state regulations that we have to follow, but then we also add to that sometimes and have company policies which we adhere to. So it's all of the above.
Okay. Susan, you originally from the area?
Yes, I am a native. I grew up here in North Myrtle Beach.
Is that right?
That's right.
What's it? Do you get to North Myrtle Beach often?
Well, actually, my mother still lives here. My father passed away, but my mother still lives here, and I have a sister who lives here. So I do come at least once a week.
Oh, great. So you still have family. Do you, any other family in the area?
I am the youngest of 4 girls.
Oh,
so
wow.
I have 3 sisters. One lives here in Windy Hill. One lives just across the line in West Brunswick. And then I have one that's about 6 hours away in the mountains of North Carolina.
What prompted her to leave the area? It sounds like your mom here and the other 3 here.
I guess you'd have to say a husband prompted her, but she loves it there now. She lives on a lake in the mountains, and she absolutely loves it there.
So y'all are able to go up there and visit.
We go up there, and then we talk her into coming home quite often, too.
That's wonderful. Susan, what job have you elected to fill on the Santee Cooper Heart Walk team?
I am what they call the recruitment leader for Santee Cooper.
Okay. And what exactly does that mean, the recruitment leader? That sounds like a big title.
It's a big title.
Yeah.
Actually, what that means, it was my job to try to pull together some team leaders within the company to kind of head the teams that we came up with at Santee Cooper.
And y'all have 7 teams, I think.
We did. What we did, we divided the company, the Horry Georgetown area of the company, kind of into 7 areas geographically.
Okay.
And we made them 7 teams. And those teams are, like if you work in the North Myrtle Beach Customer Service Office or in the operations or engineering area in North Myrtle Beach, you are part of the North Myrtle Beach team.
Oh, great. Okay.
And then we, of course, have generating stations, 2 generating stations in this area, both Winyah and Granger, and each of those are a team.
Mm-hmm. And these are places you visit on a pretty regular basis.
Right.
In your position as safety specialist.
That's part of my job.
Mm-hmm. Susan, approximately how many employees will be involved in the fundraising efforts for the American Heart Association?
Well, like I said, we've put each employee on a team, and we are hoping that they are going to be involved in some way. And we have about 550 employees
Oh my God,
in this
that's
area.
great.
In this area. So we're hoping that in some way they will either purchase a lunch or help wash a car or just make a donation as part of the team.
You don't know how many folks you're expecting to walk out there on October 11th?
Not yet, we don't. We are pushing that as well. We want to have a big team show up for the walk and have a lot of fun that day.
What's that been like with Graham Edwards as the dang co-chair? That makes it kind of tough, the chairman of the board, former CEO of the company. That must be a nightmare.
Well, you know, you say that, but really, we're all a big family. And Graham coming back was like having a member of our family come home. And as a company, we have always been involved in civic organizations and things that, you know, different groups that are trying to raise money for good causes. Santee Cooper's always been involved in that. And Graham, as a CEO or as a board chairman, has been very much supportive of that.
Oh.
So the employees are happy to get behind him.
Absolutely. The big family. I think of stalwarts like Jack Monroe for 20-plus years, heading up the horseback ride-a-thon.
Exactly.
Jill Watts, of course, general chairwoman of the United Way campaign. I mean, so many activities that Santee Cooper's wrapped around, along with many other many other associates, I'm sure.
Right.
Do you have a Santee Cooper in-house competition underway, Susan?
Yes, we do. You might have guessed that by the 7
Yeah.
teams, but we decided that might make it a little more fun for our employees to not only be working together for a good cause, but to sort of be competing against each other. We like to compete and we like to win at Santee Cooper, so, and it seems to be paying off. It really does.
That's great. What did y'all set as a goal for the 7 teams, Susan?
What we did, we gave each team a dollar amount as a goal, and each team's goal is to raise $1,000. Now, we said above and beyond that, Santee Cooper is going to award the winning team with a prize at the end of our efforts. And that team to win has to raise the most money per employee because our teams are different sizes. So we did that to make it fair. So the team that wins at Santee Cooper will be the Santee Cooper team that raises the most money per employee on their team.
That's right. And of course, there are also individual prizes. I think from the Heart Association,
Exactly.
there's a big cash prize for the top individual walkers.
Exactly.
So that's a great incentive there. That's wonderful. How did you go about coordinating the efforts of the 7 teams? That's a big deal for viewers in the PD or in southeastern North Carolina who may be attending walks on their own, or even down here in Horry County in Georgetown who be in own teams. What was that like, the coordination there?
Well, to tell you the truth, what we did, I told you we have team leaders for each team. And what we decided to do as part of my job, I was to recruit those team leaders. And we decided, depending on what size the area was, we would get team leaders for those areas. And we have 16 team leaders at Santee Cooper. Some of the teams have 2, some of the teams have 3, depending on their size. And they are the ones working very hard, coming up, being creative, because each team's location offers a different advantage. And so we told them to be creative and to use that advantage and to do what works for that area. So the teams are doing different things to raise money, and we hope they're having fun. In fact, we have evidence that they are having a lot of fun working together and just being creative and coming up with fun ideas to raise money and have a good time but help a good cause.
What are a couple of those that stick out in your mind, Susan? A couple of the events. I know there's so many that have wrapped around in participation. What are a couple of those wraparound events?
A couple of the things. We recently just had a car wash, and I'm the recruitment leader, so I'm trying to help every team, but I have a team too.
Oh, yeah.
So the Horry Georgetown team recently had a car wash, and I can tell you it was probably on one of the hottest days of the year. So we took a lot of time wetting each other, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But we had a great time. We washed 22 cars.
Oh, God.
So I had quite a bit of good come out of that effort. We also kicked off our efforts with a dunking booth at our company picnic.
Oh.
Our board chairman was one of the ones that got dunked.
Get down.
Yes. He volunteered to sit in the dunking booth and raised quite a bit of money. And that money was divided among the 7 teams because it was a company picnic. So just to make it fair.
We'll have to talk to Graham about that tomorrow. Susan, the Santee Cooper team will be wearing a special T-shirt. Can you share with the viewers a little bit about that T-shirt?
Yes, you know, like I said, we're doing this team competition thing, and we weren't going to let the T-shirt slide with that either. Each of the 7 teams were asked to be creative and come up with a T-shirt design, Santee Cooper's team shirt for the walk that day. And they each submitted it, and we had 8 judges that are not affiliated with Santee Cooper judge the designs and came up with a winning design. And we really think it's a wonderful piece of work that came together really from all of the teams. But we're very proud, and we did have a team that took home honors for coming up with a T-shirt design. But we will be wearing a wonderful design that day that was created by one of our teams.
Great. Wow. We'll look forward to seeing that out on October 11th. We got less than a minute, Susan. What benefits do you think Santee Cooper's employees derive from their participation in this year's 12th Annual Heart Walk?
Well, hopefully we will get some people involved in something that they don't normally do, but they're having a good time. They're coming together. I think it's a morale booster in a way. It's a little bit different than the everyday work routine. It brings them together for a common cause, but something that they can feel good about. And I don't think you can put a price on that.
Has that common cause affected you in your life at all, Susan, heart disease or strokes?
As far as my immediate family, no. But we even have people at Santee Cooper who have been affected directly. And we've had a few of those speak at some of our meetings. So from the standpoint of my Santee Cooper family, yes, we have had people affected by heart and stroke problems.
550 area employees with Santee Cooper, quite a few of them affected by heart disease and stroke. The families getting together, you heard Susan say it when we started off, an amazing family commitment to give back to the community. Susan, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. We want to thank Brad Dean, the co-chair of this year's Heart Walk, and Susan Mungo of Santee Cooper for making today's Carolina People so special.